For the top programs in college football, some of them have nicknames. There are some schools that are considered the best for running backs, quarterbacks, receivers, or offensive linemen. Sometimes even defensive players like defensive backs. But there are a couple of schools who produce a ton of tight ends. Honestly, you could go either way with that, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about Penn State. They have honestly become an NFL tight end prospect factory, and why the heck has that been the case? Well, in today's video, we're going to go through the last couple of decades and talk about the crazy amount of tight ends that Penn State has sent off to the NFL and why they have consistently been producing at the position. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's get started and talk about Penn State as a tight end factory. Alright, so going back in time to the 1995 NFL Draft, this was the start of the run of talented Penn State tight ends getting their chance in the league. But it wasn't until after 2000 that they started to earn their reputation as a tight end factory. The first tight end to be drafted after the turn of the millennium was Tony Stewart. He was a 2-year starter at Penn State and finished with 861 yards and 3 touchdowns and was drafted by the Eagles in the 5th round of the 2001 draft. He started his career with the Eagles in 2001, but was signed to their practice squad in 2002, where he was then poached by the Bengals. With Cincinnati, he was a backup tight end through the end of the 2007 season, where he signed with the Oakland Raiders. He ended his career in 2010 as a career backup, finishing with 600 total yards and 3 touchdowns. John Gilmore was the next tight end to be drafted into the league, as he was taken late in the 6th round of the 2002 draft by the New Orleans Saints after finishing his college career with nearly 700 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. Like Stewart, he was a career backup in the NFL, and that lasted from 2002 to 2011, spanning 4 different teams, but he got on the field even less, finishing with a career of 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. Sean McHugh was taken just 1 round later in the 2004 draft and had a much better career. He was both a fullback and a tight end for Penn State, logging nearly 300 yards and a touchdown, as well as 322 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns. The Titans drafted him in the 7th round, but cut him before the start of the year. He then ended up at Green Bay, and after spending 2004 with the Packers, he signed a 3-year deal with the Lions, and then finished his career spending 2 years with the Steelers until he retired in 2009. During those 5 seasons, he had 300 yards and was a primary backup in Detroit. So far, things have been a little bit slow, you're probably thinking. But it starts to pick up. Andrew Corliss was a standout freshman at Penn State in 2006, but he got passed up in 2007. Despite that, he still worked his way into a starting role and finished his college career with nearly 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns and was drafted by the Packers in the 5th round of the 2010 NFL Draft. He suffered injuries throughout his time at the Packers though and was let go of in 2016. He then signed with the Lions, and by the time he had retired, he had over 1,000 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. So after that, we have Mickey Schuler Jr. He was the guy who beat out Andrew Corliss for the starting spot at Penn State in 2007. His dad had been a standout tight end at Penn State as well, so there was a lot of hope that Mickey would be able to live up to his dad's legacy. In 3 seasons with the Lions, he put up 300 receiving yards and had 4 touchdowns. He's also a little bit of a disappointment. Despite that, he ended up being drafted in the 7th round of the 2010 NFL Draft by the Vikings, and he made the 53-man roster as a rookie. He was cut a few weeks later, and ended up with the Dolphins for the rest of 2010. He then bounced around a handful of practice squads after that, spending more time at Minnesota, and then Jacksonville in 2014, and Atlanta in 2015 before retiring. Okay, so yeah, Penn State was producing a lot of late-round NFL draft picks who sort of had bizarre journeyman-type NFL careers. But as we now get into the last 15 years or so, Penn State took a major step up and finally started producing players that actually did something once they got to the NFL. This all started with Jesse James. He had a great 3-year career at Penn State, and ended with over 1,000 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns, which broke Penn State's record for touchdowns by a tight end. He was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 5th round of the 2015 draft, and he became the Steelers' starting tight end in 2016, becoming the first Penn State starter at the position in the 2000s. He was a starter there until he signed with the Lions in 2019, and he slowed down in production there and was actually released in 2021, where he signed with the Bears. He was restricted to just 2 games at the Browns in 2022 and has not seen regular season action since then, but has put up over 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns so far in his NFL career. Jesse's success helped pave the way for Mike Gesicki at Penn State. Gesicki was an even better player than Jesse was, with nearly 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns in college, and he was a 3rd-team All-Big Ten selection in 2016. His combination of size and athletic ability got him drafted in the second round of the 2018 draft by the Miami Dolphins. He spent 5 years in Miami before ending up in New England for the 2023 season on a 1-year deal. The problem throughout his career to that point, though, was he hadn't started a full season yet, with the most games he had started being 10. After New England, he spent 2024 in Cincinnati, but only played in 13 games, starting just 3. So far, though, he's had a good career with over 3,300 yards and 23 receiving touchdowns. After those two, we had Pat Freiermuth come in. He was one of the best tight ends in Penn State history, but he did not have as good of a college career as Mike did. During his 3-year career at Penn State from 2018 to 2020, Pat caught 92 passes for 1,200 yards and 16 touchdowns, earning him second-team All-Big Ten honors in 2019 and first-team honors in 2020. He also won the Tight End of the Year award. He was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers in the second round of the 2021 draft, and so far, through 4 years with Pittsburgh, he has 2,200 yards and 18 touchdowns, and is considered one of the better young tight ends in the NFL. Replacing Pat as the starter in 2021 was Brenton Strange. He finished his college career with over 700 yards and 11 touchdowns, and was named a third-team All-Big Ten Conference selection in 2022. He was drafted by Jacksonville in the second round of the 2023 NFL Draft, and would make 4 starts his rookie year, and has played in 17 total games over the last 2 seasons, catching 45 passes for 446 yards and 3 touchdowns. Things have really been going quickly for them, as last year they ended up having Theo Johnson. He was different than most of the other Penn State tight ends, though, as he was born in Canada before signing on to play for Penn State. Over 4 years, he outplayed Brenton Strange and finished with a total of 900 yards and 12 touchdowns. It was good enough for the New York Giants to draft him in the 4th round of the 2024 NFL Draft, and as a rookie he played in 12 games with over 300 receiving yards and 1 touchdown. Undoubtedly, though, Tyler Warren could be the best and will be the best Penn State tight end to make this list, and will definitely be the highest drafted out of all of them. After having tremendous years as both a redshirt sophomore and redshirt junior, Tyler exploded onto the scene this past year with nearly 1,300 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns in his senior year alone. In total, he has nearly 1,900 yards and 19 touchdowns, and recently won the Mackey Award for the best college tight end in the country, and is the first player from Penn State to win that award. He was also named both a first-team All-American and a first-team All-Big Ten Conference selection. He didn't end up working out at the Combine, but he's projected to be a high pick, and will be the highest Nittany Lion picked at the tight end spot since the Jets took Kyle Brady all those years ago. Wait, yeah. Who's Kyle Brady? Well, he was actually drafted in the first round in the 1995 NFL Draft, and he started the run of talented Penn State tight ends, and it looks like Tyler Warren is going to be the best guy since then. As you can see, Penn State has slowly gotten better at developing tight ends over time, and you can see what the level of play their tight ends have had over the last 25 years. They went from being just another Big Ten team that had solid players at the position, to now being one of the main colleges you look at for that. They already have guys waiting in the wings to take over, like former 5-star Luke Reynolds, who was the #1 recruit in the class of 2024, and they also have 4-star tight end Andrew Olesh as the #1 recruit in their class in 2025, and then Brian Kortovich in the same class, who also has a ton of upside. If you're a tight end, you're probably going to want to go there now, or maybe you'll go to Notre Dame or Iowa. Okay, so the real reason why Penn State keeps developing tight ends at a high level is kind of simple when you look at it. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Penn State makes tight ends, so good ones want to go there. So then Penn State gets tight end coaches that are great at developing the position, and the cycle continues. Ever since the start of the Franklin coaching regime, there has been a focus on tight end development, and that's something that Franklin doesn't seem to be letting go of because it gets good athletes in his offense. Their tight ends coach this past season was Ty Howell, who has been there since 2020. He's a big part of keeping Penn State's tradition as a tight end factory alive because he was a former offensive lineman at Penn State during those early 2010s and wants to uphold the level of talent from back then as well. He's honestly been the best of their coaches, as since then he's had Pat Freiermuth, Brenton Strange, Theo Johnson, Tyler Warren, and now Luke Reynolds. Even he was set up to succeed by Penn State's last tight end coach Tyler Bowen, who left in 2020 after being the interim offensive coordinator as well as tight ends coach and recruiting coordinator. He went on to become the tight ends coach with Jacksonville, and then the offensive coordinator at Virginia Tech in 2022, and later the offensive line coach for Ohio State this upcoming season. There's been a clear line of importance for the tight end position since at least 2018, and that has only grown with the level of play that Penn State has gotten out of their tight ends recently. Results bring results, and Penn State's continued success at the position will only bring more success for them. But what do you guys think? Who is the best school at developing tight ends? Is it Wisconsin? Is it Notre Dame? Is it Bama? Is it Iowa? Is it Penn State? Let me know your thoughts down below. Also, give me another school or position group I could do next. And before you go, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and check out my other videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.